Excellent. Hey, welcome back. I'm here again with my friend Max Lugavere, author of the awesome book Genius Foods. Max, I have a question for you. In your book, you talk about how to improve cognition, how to improve the health of your brain, how to prevent disease. I have a very simple question for you. What is a great, simple, brain-boosting breakfast? Like, what should someone start their day with to improve their brain health and improve the way that they think throughout the day?
Really good question. So, the first thing that I do when I wake up is I'll drink a glass of water, usually with a little bit of mineral salt in it. If I'm doing a particularly low-carb iteration of my diet, I become really conscious of getting enough electrolytes, and that includes sodium. Sodium's a nutrient. It's been sort of demonized over the past couple of decades in this country.
Wait, so sodium's not bad?
Sodium's not bad. No, it's actually called a macro mineral because we actually require a relatively large amount of it for good health. And today, our products actually label themselves as being low sodium as if it's a good thing, but that's sort of, I think tending to the wrong issue, because so often these processed foods, which have been stripped of sodium, it's the processed foods that are bad for us. But anyway, so when you're doing a low carb diet, essentially what you're doing is you're stimulating less insulin, because carbohydrates are the most insulin stimulating of the macronutrients. And when you have less circulating insulin, your kidneys basically spill sodium. And you need sodium to feel good, to keep your blood pressure up. In fact, having clinically low sodium is actually something called hyponatremia, and it can manifest as symptoms of dementia. Which is very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Now, is this why when people do low carbohydrate diets or ketogenic diets, sometimes they experience muscle cramps?
Yes, potentially. And also, it's thought that it could also contribute to the low carb flu that so many people frequently have. Yeah.
So it's not what we've heard, where it's like, oh, I can't switch into ketosis. It's, hey man, you need more sodium.
Yeah, you need more sodium. You got to add more salt to your diet if you're doing a very low carb diet.
Okay.
And your first day on a low carb diet, you basically cut the amount of insulin that your pancreas is secreting by half. So add some more salt. When I'm doing low carb, I sprinkle it in my water, and it's actually one of the more impactful things that I do. I feel really good when I'm doing it. I feel more alert.
What's a good mineral salt? Is pink Himalayan salt a good option?
I get my salt from a company in Utah called Redmond Real Salt. I have zero financial affiliation with them. Okay. I'm just a fan of the product.
You're the third person that's told me about Real Salt.
Yeah, it's good.
So I think I'm going to go there too.
It tastes good. It's pink. It's got other minerals in it. It's from an underground dehydrated lake. I'm like promoting a product now. And it's very clean. It's got, trace iodine, stuff like that.
Okay, so you start with a little bit of a pinch of that salt in your water. What else? What should someone eat next?
Yeah, so then about an hour or two after I wake up, I don't eat immediately after waking up. I think, growing up, I was told that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. But the thing is, when you wake up first thing in the morning, your body has a hormonal milieu that wants to burn through stored fuels. Cortisol, which is the body's chief catabolic hormone, is at its peak about 45 minutes after you wake up. And what that hormone is doing, it's working to liberate stored fats, sugars, and things like that your brain and muscles want to use for fuel. It's basically the body's chief waking hormone, although today it's been sort of bastardized and tied to chronic stress, which has become very prevalent in the modern world. But you don't want to mess with cortisol. You want cortisol to do its job. And so frequently, especially in the most commonly consumed form of breakfast, the muffin or the cereal.
Captain Crunch,
what we're doing, think about how insane this sounds from an evolutionary standpoint, that in the modern world, when cortisol is elevated, that it's going to be the highest that it is throughout the day. We're also elevating with our high carb breakfasts, insulin, which is the body's chief anabolic hormone. So having cortisol elevated and insulin elevated when we have our typical high carb breakfast, that's like a recipe for disaster. Actually, what that does is it helps redistribute your body weight from muscle to fat. Because when insulin is elevated, cortisol will continue to exert its catabolic effect.
Interesting.
But because insulin creates sort of like a one-way valve on your fat cells, it only exerts that effect on your muscles. So
now your catabolic muscle, anabolic fat.
No bueno.
Terrible combination.
Yeah, terrible combination.
So how long should you wait then before you eat?
An hour or two.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll wait 3. It's not, I don't get tied up over the hours, but I don't eat as soon as I wake up. I let cortisol do its job.
So then you avoid the refined carbohydrates, and should you eat like a high-fat breakfast?
Yeah, so what I often end up eating is I'll eat what I call a huge fatty salad. And I don't mean throwing ranch dressing on it, tortilla strips and cheese.
Damn
I know. It's basically a bowl of dark leafy greens. I go for kale, arugula, spinach. Those are my top 3 favorites. And then I'll douse it with extra virgin olive oil because some of the most valuable nutrients in those greens are only accessible to you when consumed in the presence of fat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fat sort of serves as like a slip and slide for those nutrients to get into your circulation, whereas without fat, their absorption is negligible. So I douse it with extra virgin olive oil. I'm getting lots of good prebiotic fiber with that salad, which helps to feed the microbes that live in the large intestine. So sometimes maybe I'll drink a bottle of kombucha with it. When you consume prebiotics with probiotics, it's been suggested that helps the probiotic bacteria help them better take up residence in the gut by sort of activating their metabolism. It's called symbiotics. Protein, definitely chicken. So I'll add, chicken or an egg to it, maybe some grass-fed steak. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It's really interesting. We didn't get to talk about this on the podcast, but there's this idea, it's called the protein leverage hypothesis, that basically states that our hunger mechanism is driven by protein because protein is sort of the most valuable macronutrient. It was the hardest to get. We had to chase our food for the vast majority of our evolution. So we basically eat to get protein essentially. And when you consume adequate protein, that's why it's more satiating than carbohydrates.
Because it sends a signal to your body, hey, you've got a lot of nutrients. And a lot of people don't realize this, but protein, obviously found a lot of it in meat. Meat is extremely nutrient dense. In fact, you'll get almost every nutrient you need from meat. So it just makes sense that you eat the protein, your body's like, cool, we got what we need.
Exactly.
Don't need to make you hungry.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's usually my first meal of the day. I make it a huge fatty salad, and that's a rule that I try to have for myself every single day. I try to eat a huge fatty salad every single day because research shows out of Rush University that people that consume a large salad of dark leafy greens every single day have brains that look on scans 11 years younger. Wow,
that's fascinating. Now, here's something that I always talk about with people. Whenever I recommend something like that for breakfast, they always look at me and like, well, that's not a breakfast food. and this is a very interesting thing to touch on. Now, a lot of the things that we regard as breakfast, lunch, and dinner foods, those foods were decided for you by food manufacturers. So there is no such thing as a breakfast food. It really doesn't matter. You can eat whatever you want in the morning or whatever you want at night or in the afternoon. So having a salad in the morning, as weird as that sounds, you just have to decondition that conditioning that you've gotten from all those food manufacturers that have literally convinced you that cereal, muffins, waffles, and pancakes are breakfast foods. Those are actually, they're just foods, and they probably should be never foods, is what I like to call them.
Yeah, most breakfast foods commonly consumed in the U.S. are not foods, but they're food-like products.
Yeah.
To quote Michael Pollan. And but I also love eggs. So sometimes I'll go for some eggs with avocado and a little bit of like smoked salmon on the side.
So let me tell you what I like to eat. You give me a grade.
Okay.
So I'll wake up in the morning. I'll have I'll wait about 45 minutes, and then I'll have a little bit of coffee, and then I'll eat. It's my favorite breakfast, by the way. Sardines, avocado, and some greens and olive oil. How does that sound?
I love that. That sounds amazing.
Is that good?
Yeah, actually, in my book, I just mix avocado with some sardines, and I call it a better brain bowl.
Oh,
yeah,
excellent.
It's literally, it's got everything you need. You've got your sardines, which, sardines are amazing. I had to convince myself to try them. There was a bit of a hump that I had to get over.
I think people confuse them with anchovies. They're not anchovies. They're actually really good.
They're really good. Well, I like anchovies too, actually. I do and you should too. You're Italian, right?
I do like anchovies.
Anchovies are great.
But those are the salty, fishy fish.
Right.
Sardines don't taste like that. They're totally different.
They're meaty. Yeah, they taste really good. And they're packed with, DHA fat, selenium, protein.
They're also extremely low in heavy metals because...
Very low in heavy metals.
Yeah, they're not a big fish like tuna, where if you eat a lot of tuna, you might, cause accumulation of heavy metals. Sardines, very low.
Yeah, and also very underappreciated. They're cheap and they're ultra portable. So I actually travel. I keep cans of sardines in my backpack.
Excellent. I love meeting other people who like sardines.
Same.
Excellent. So check it out. Share this video with your friends. I hope this made an impact on you. Now you know what to eat in the morning if you want to be smart. Look, if you have any questions, put it in the comments below. We'll go down there, try and answer those for you. Subscribe to this channel. We post new videos all the time. Also, there's a link underneath for Max's book, Genius Foods. Highly recommend you take a look at it.